Quick shout out to producer Bob in the building. Without his creative input, these videos would not be possible. What is up, guys? Welcome to City Bob YouTube channel. Hope you're well, hope you're all enjoying the heat wave. A lot of people are still staying at home, and in this heat it's not nice, especially if you're working from home. You're probably starting to miss those offices with air conditioning right now, but let's crack on. So the pandemic's obviously had a massive impact on a lot of people's plans to go motorcycle touring this year. So what I'd like to actually talk about is the tours that I'm actually looking at doing over the next 12 months. So we actually had a Wales tour booked for this year, but that has been cancelled. We will still be looking at doing that tour, but perhaps maybe early next year now. Within Wales, there's still quite a few restrictions in place, so it's probably not the best place to go right now. It's important to make sure that you still remain safe, still remain vigilant, keep your social distancing. You know, we're not talking about going tours and hugging strangers. You just need to be smart, you need to be clever. Don't put yourself or anyone else at risk. Just maintain that air of caution. So one of the trips I'm actually looking at doing within the next couple of months is London to Cornwall. Within Cornwall, we'll be looking at probably riding down to staying at Pentwain Sands Holiday Park. Hopefully they're bike friendly. I think they are. I know that they take the classic minis on the Riviera run. I haven't actually been down there on Riv Run since they moved it from Newquay, but I hear that the caravan park that they use now is really nice. It's right on the sea, got a great beach, and they've got quite a few activities as well where you can hire jet skiing, do wakeboarding, surfing. One of the other activities we used to always do when we went down with the minis will be to go to the Cornish cider farm. So we're going to have to make sure that we go down with minimal luggage, and obviously have quite a few panniers and luggage space to bring back all that lovely cider. Another thing to do down in Cornwall is visit Land's End. There's some great riding roads around there, as long as you don't get stuck behind a tractor. So the ride down to Pentwain Holiday Park, I'm probably pronouncing that really bad. This video should have actually been titled City Bob Pronounces Loads of Names Incorrectly, but Pentwain Holiday Park, we'll go with that. Here it is. Anyway, it's about 5.5 hours ride from me from London, and I'll be joining some friends down there, and again we'll try to observe social distancing. So that's one trip I'll be looking at doing in the next couple of months. Alright guys, moving on to trip number 2. I'm not sure how I actually feel about this trip. Just for the fact that I know there are a lot of restrictions still currently in place within Scotland as there are in Wales, and obviously with the North Coast 500, it's such a popular route. I think as soon as restrictions lift and people can go up there, everyone is going to. So it's not going to be a lot of fun, whether you're going to a bike friendly pub, bike friendly hotels. They're all going to be rammed, they're all going to be really packed. I think in a post-pandemic world when we're all still trying to maintain social distancing, I think going to somewhere that's going to be overly busy is probably asking for trouble. You're not going to have a great time anyway, so I think it's probably best to shelve that one, maybe to the end of next year. But I have got the NC 500 in mind, and it is something I really want to do. For me, from London, it's probably about 9 hours ride up to Inverness. If you base it on 2 days, it starts off in Inverness. Here I go butchering the pronunciation again. Kilisku, Sutherland. So Inverness to Sutherland. You're looking at around 255 miles for the first day. There's a reason why the NC 500 is so popular. It's got some beautiful roads, beautiful scenery that even Europe can't rival. So it's something that's well worth doing. I just don't think it's the right place to go right now when the restrictions lift. So that one, I still plan on doing it, but I think I'll be smart with that one and shelve that one until it's a little less busy, if that ever happens. For day one, you're looking at leaving Inverness and riding up to Drumacroy. Come on, are these really names? Killing me here. Anyway, starting off in Inverness, you can see there's a shorter route or you can go the longer route, but I believe the shorter route's probably got some nicer, windier, more interesting roads with the longer route being on A roads, so take your pick there. Day 2, you start off, here we go, let's just say Sutherland, and riding back to Inverness where you started, but instead of going the route that you took to arrive, you go the north tip and you pass John O'Groats, which brings it in nicely to if I did the Scotland trip. Even though it wouldn't be in one trip, I still would have done John O'Groats and Land's End, which is quite nice to have been able to achieve. I've never actually done that. I think one day I might actually ride John O'Groats to Land's End in one trip, but again, we'll see how that works out. It could be something shelved for a later date. So that's Scotland. Like I said, it should take about 9 hours to ride up there, then a couple of days worth, 250 miles approximately each day. So it's some good tours and good riding, but we'll shelve that one till further down the line. And that's my Bike of Britain. As you can see, I've got some notes there. Britain, great place to tour, but let's crack on, talk about some more European and international trips. Moving on to trips that take us a little bit further afield. 9.5 hours up to Scotland isn't a short trip, but I know some of you watching from America or other places, perhaps out in Asia, 9.5 hours could be just a trip to your grocery store. No? Nothing? So moving on, so there's another trip we had actually planned for this year, which is going to be shelved until next year. I'm going to talk about this trip in 2 stages, because we hadn't actually finalised our plans of what we wanted to do. And Spain's quite easy to get to for us, for a reason that I will come to in a second. But we're talking about going further east in Europe, was another trip we were looking at doing. We initially discussed doing all this in one trip, but we also discussed doing Spain as one trip and then further out into Europe as a second trip. So let's cover both these points off as one, but in 2 separate points, as point A and point B. So point A, Spain. If you just want to get through France from UK to Spain, it can be quite monotonous on the motorways. So the thing we planned on was actually picking up a ferry from Southampton and getting that all the way down to Spain until Bilbao. I think this would be a great way to arrive in Spain fresh. A lot of you dedicated hardcore tourists probably snub your noses up at this, but at the end of the day, want to make the most of our tours, arriving fresh, ready to ride, and excited for the time ahead. Most likely, we would do Spain in a long weekend. Now, if we went further afield from Spain, or whether we rode from the UK out into Europe, we haven't yet decided. My personal preference is to do Spain as one long weekend trip, come back to the UK, then at a later date go out and do Europe. So what we're talking about in Europe, we're looking at going out to places, obviously through the amazing roads in Switzerland. If you're a biker or you're a petrol head, we don't need to talk about the roads in Switzerland. And the lakes, the views, it's just an amazing country to ride around. So we'll be looking at riding through Spain, hitting up those great roads, then perhaps riding down Austria, Hungary. Andreas is from Hungary. I know he's keen to get us to ride out to Hungary at some point. So there's Austria, there's Hungary, and perhaps Croatia. Hi guys, welcome back. It's another day. Obviously I'm wearing a different t-shirt. It's dark outside. It's not as hot as it was when I first did the first 3 videos, but it's still quite hot. It's been raining, it's pretty sticky and humid at the moment. So let's talk about trips that are a little bit further afield than Europe and the UK. One of the trips that's on most people's bucket lists would be Route 66 in America. A lot of people obviously who do touring are dreaming about doing Route 66. It's a trip that ever since I got into motorcycles or even been a petrol head, I've been thinking about doing for a long time now. It'll be one that I do actually mark off the bucket list. And I've been researching this for a little while now, and I think I've come up with a few options because as a group of friends we're each approaching it slightly different. So for me, I'd love to take my bike out to the US, and there's actually some really good options for flying your bike cargo. WestJet gives an option to put the bike in the cargo hold while you're actually a passenger on the plane. So prices obviously vary quite drastically depending on seasonality, and obviously with prices for flights, they're all over the place at the moment. But doing a little bit of research and talking to people who have actually done this, you can actually fly your bike from the UK out to Canada. With WestJet, you can fly into Calgary or Vancouver, but you're looking around $1,500, about £1,200 to fly your bike out. And that's a return as well, so that's a really good price. I think that's really reasonable. Personally, I thought it would be a lot more than that. When you compare it to how much it costs to actually rent a bike out in the US for 2 weeks, maybe more, I think it's a lot more cost effective to actually fly your own bike, and you get the kudos of actually having your bike, your machine with you. And I believe they are opening up more routes, but at the moment they're the two that they offer. So for me, I think Toronto makes the most sense. What I would do is fly into Toronto with the bike, then ride the bike down to Chicago, where I'd meet friends who'd fly in, then they'd rent bikes in Chicago. Then we'd pick up the Route 66 and we'd ride across country down to LA. So the bikes will need to pass a dangerous goods inspection before being flown. But I think mostly that means just making sure they don't have a full tank of fuel. Now the other option is to hire a bike out in the US, which I believe some of my friends would rather opt for rather than taking their bike with them. So Harley-Davidson and Eagle Rider seem to be the most recommended for hiring bikes, but they do really get expensive. So if we look at some of the pricing now, you can see for this option, if you wanted to do the actual Route 66 motorcycle tour, this would be a guided tour where you'd be part of a group. If you look at this price, you can see the bottom one is one motorcycle, one person, and the hotels, $7,500. Whereas if you did 2 people, 2 motorcycles, and 1 hotel room, price reduces to $5,947 US. So it's quite a substantial drop in price there for obviously sharing a hotel room with someone else. If you took a pillion passenger, so that's 2 people, 1 motorcycle and 1 hotel, the price drops down to $4,200. I think obviously most people would opt for the second choice, but I personally think that's quite expensive, but of course you are getting a guided motorcycle tour. Another option will be to do a self tour where you don't have the guide with you. And for that price, the price drops quite considerably. Here you can see it's $4,000 for 1 bike, 1 person, 1 hotel, dropping to $3,500 for 2 people, 2 bikes and 1 hotel, and down to just $2,500 for 2 people, 1 bike and 1 hotel room. So that does look like quite a cost-effective option. Another option you have is just to rent a bike for 14 days. The issue with this is that you don't have the option to take the bike back to a different location. You have to hire the bike and then return it to the same location, and that will cost you about the same price as doing a self-guided Route 66 motorcycle tour. In fact, it's slightly more expensive to do it that way. So I think the self-guided Route 66 motorcycle tour would be a great option. Probably 2 people, 2 bikes and 1 hotel room, $3,500. 6 of you, obviously it would be a lot more cost effective if you go out in groups of 2. You could do 2 people, 2 bikes, and 2 of you being sharing a hotel room. So that's Route 66. What is up, guys? So we're moving on to number 5, the final entry, Singapore to Bangkok. This is a trip that I was actually planning on doing for my 40th birthday this year, but it's been postponed until next year for obvious reasons. So the plan is to ride from Singapore into Malaysia and then up to Kuala Lumpur, where we'd probably spend a few nights in Kuala Lumpur. Then we'd continue our route north, past Penang Islands into Thailand to Phuket, where of course we would also spend a few nights. And then carrying on our journey to Bangkok, then turning around and coming back. The trip will take around 27 to 34 hours total riding time. And then on top of that, you've got a couple of days where you stop off and you enjoy the scenery. Because if you were just riding non-stop, where's the fun in that? Beautiful countries, you want to actually take some time and enjoy them. It's around 1,500 miles from Singapore to Bangkok. Probably take about 2 to 3 weeks. That's when I was planning on doing it for my 40th birthday this year. And it's actually quite common for people to hire bikes from Harley in Singapore and ride them to Bangkok and back. And I checked with the dealership, there's actually no problem with doing this whatsoever. They'll actually offer BMW K1200R or a Harley, either Dyna with luggage or a Sportster. Prices are quite reasonable. If you're looking at doing it on either the BMW K1200R or a Dyna with some luggage, cost works out about the same. For 14 days, you're looking at around £1,700, around 2,280 US dollars. The roads from Singapore to Bangkok, it's all beautiful tarmac road, so you wouldn't have a problem with a Dyna. I think it would be a great bike just to chill, cruise and enjoy the scenery. It's a shame I'm not going to be doing this for my 40th this year. Would have been a great way to bring in my 40th, but it's just not the right time to be going out doing a trip like that. I will postpone it, but this is definitely a trip that I've earmarked for my 40th. It will still happen. I travel a lot for business. I've actually been to a lot of countries all over the world, and I've got to ride in a few of those countries as well. It's about time I spent more than a couple of days riding around the country, and did a couple of weeks. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it informative, and I hope it's given you some inspiration. So, take it easy. Bye.
How heavy is that? Light work with the bass on the track, on my face to the back like I'm taking a slap. I need a drink, but it's straight from the tap. And I'm hating the slack, couple miles run around like the hate in the gaff. Please stop talking that trash, cause the vibes in the front all the way to the back.